eCapitol News Director Sean Ashley joins us to discuss the latest news from the state capitol. Sean, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
The process of running bills is in full bloom now as various committees began examining measures. That includes the new Government Efficiency Committee. What have they been working on?
Well, House Speaker Charles McCall created this committee back after Governor Stitt was elected and before the legislative session began. Governor Stitt, of course, campaigned on the idea of improving government efficiency. So what this committee is really looking at is sort of that point where taxpayers and the government come together and interface with one another and making that interface as smooth as possible. One of the bills they considered this last week has to do with past due taxes. Now, you can lose an occupational license if you have not paid your previous year's taxes. However, this also could apply to an individual who just moved into the state and was never subject to Oklahoma taxes. They don't have a tax record with the Oklahoma Tax Commission. So what the committee did was consider a piece of legislation that clarifies this to say that if you were subject to taxes and did not pay them, you could lose an occupational license or not be able to renew it. But if you have just moved into the state or were not previously subject to Oklahoma taxes, you can get and retain that occupational license.
Governor Stitt has also indicated that he's willing to talk about some form of Medicaid expansion, but that wasn't in the tone of his State of the State speech. Is that really an issue that's up for discussion?
I think it is an issue that's up for discussion. He has some very tight parameters about how that would happen. And that would be it could not impose an ongoing financial obligation on the state in terms of money that the federal government might take away. Now, a couple of weeks ago, he indicated he was willing to have this discussion, and a lot of people on both sides of the aisle were really excited about that. But there are people who do have that concern that if the federal government comes in with some money, it one day might disappear, as it has in some other programs, and they not be able to fill that hole.
Oh. Now, Governor Stitt has also talked about his plans to push reform for the criminal justice system, but is that likely to face some resistance down there?
Well, there may be some resistance. What we saw during the governor's State of the State speech was when this issue was raised, Democrats were quick to their feet with a standing ovation. Republicans came along a little more slowly. But what we've seen in years past, as criminal justice reform measures have been considered, is that Republicans have gotten on board. They are supporters of the idea of criminal justice reform. It just may take some time, and they have to look at the specific bills and see what's being done before they get on their feet and clap.
Sean Ashley from eCapitol News, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.